Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at TruStory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it. Welcome to Movies We Like, part of the Next Reel family of shows on TruStory FM. I'm Andy Nelson, and that over there is Pete Wright.
It is confirmed, Pete Wright.
On today's episode, we have invited Ann Maskrey to talk about The Grand Budapest Hotel, a movie she likes. Ann began her career in costume departments of theater and opera before moving into freelance costume work for film and television, eventually designing for productions including all 3 Hobbit films and most recently, the Magic Faraway Tree. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on it.
We're thrilled to have you here to chat about all the amazing work that you do and the fantastical projects that you've been such a part of. To get started, let's talk a little bit about you and kind of how you got started with your background, starting in kind of theater and opera, moving into doing costume making freelance and moving into designing. What was that journey like for you?
I think it's been a little different to a lot of other costume designers. And in a sense, I think it's helped me a great deal as a designer now because I've kind of gone through every single type of journey to get to this point, So my first love was theatre, and I did a theatre design course at art college. But I'd always loved movies and gone to movies as a child, gone to the theatre as a child. But then as I sort of got older and was a teenager, I'd take myself to the movies because I like that big panoramic view. I like to me now, I know there are theatre purists, but I like the complete immersive thing of being in the dark, hopefully nobody coughing and sneezing and walking past me, but just sort of like seeing a widescreen, wonderful, immersive image with everything there to believe in, hopefully. So I did theatre design at Wimbledon Art School, and then I did initially get a job with a television company, but I lost my father just as I was doing my finals, so I went home to be with my mum, and I worked in a local store just to earn some money. And then once we'd settled out a bit, I kind of took a little walk to the local theatre and knocked on their door and went, "Hello, are there any jobs? I've done this and this is what I want to do." And they took me in as a dresser on a fantastic musical called Chicago.
Ooh.
And they kind of didn't let me go then. They sort of said, "Oh, come and do this scene cloth and come and do this." And so I kept doing a bit until they eventually went, "Come and join us." But it was a rep company. Well, it still is. So I'd work there from September till March. And then they'd have, and they still do, have the World Snooker Championships because it's theatre in the round and it's a perfect setting. And so after the first year, I was like, well, I still like doing this and I want to do more of it. I then went to Glyndebourne Opera in Sussex. So I've then flipped for a couple of years between Glyndebourne Opera, which is a beautiful setting just outside Lewes in East Sussex, and a whole different world of working in rep theatre, and absolutely loved it. So I kind of did that, bobbed back and forth for 2-3 years, and then took over the theatre that I was working in, the department in the theatre that I was working in, and did that for like 3 years, and then went, there's more to life than this, I want to go freelance. I'd been cutting anyway, but then I realised there was a world where I could actually earn a living doing freelance cutting and making. So I kind of set up my own shop and stuff. And it developed from that, really. I mean, I'm making it like a really short potted story so that...
Right. This is a little more complicated.
It sounds like it happened all over about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I don't want to just stay on that. But yeah, I loved the opera more than I loved the rep company in time because I love opera anyway. And then it was just bigger and it just grew and it was time to go bigger, So it was like always a step up and a step up. And I went from doing freelance costume making to actually, I got sucked into the film world doing freelance making. And then they went, we don't want you to come with us on location. come and do this. And then I was an assistant costume designer and then gradually a designer. So it was a journey.
Yeah.
Slowly upwards, never back.
Slowly upwards. Right. What was the first film that you ended up working on? What was that film that got you sucked into the industry?
Well, on location.
Yeah.
I think it was restoration.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't Last of the Mohicans. I've got you on. I've just opened your IMDb and Mohicans comes up as number 1.
I don't think it was that. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Like the dates on the films are sometimes not in order of how
they're not quite right.
Yeah, so Last of the Mohicans, I went and did like 6 or 7 weeks there, but I think that was, I don't know, I can't be sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just that restoration is the one that I remember for like making stuff in my own workshop, going to do fittings. I got given more to do, and then I went to do fittings at Shepperton, and then they all went on location, and me and this other girl did all the notes on the fittings, and then I went, let's put them in order for when they come back. And they went, oh my God, you've lined up, which is, I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but it was all ready to put on people's backs for when they started shooting. So that was like each thing was a little learning thing.
Yeah.
And then they went, come on location with us and come and work on the set. So I worked at Shepperton on the set, and it went to Wales with them, and it was just, and then that designer asked me to assist him on his next film, which was Wind in the Willows.
Wind in the Willows is beautiful. And you end up in this, you sort of end up in this universe where you're doing a lot of fantasy, sometimes science fiction fantasy, high fantasy. You're working on the Star Wars prequels. You're going from opera, which is classical live action, very large, moving into costuming that is super intimate and not seen from a proscenium, right? You're working in a situation where you have people where the cameras are going to be right up on your work all the time. And I'm curious, when you get to something like The Fifth Element or something huge, or Phantom Menace, and when you're doing something where so many eyes are going to be on every possible detail of the character design, I'd love you to wax a little bit on some of the lessons you learned there, on the lessons that exist in the gap between live action to these massive and super intensely scrutinized productions.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I sort of learned it over time from other clever people, really. I mean, I'd like to say that at Glyndebourne, although that's seen from a distance, it is quite an intimate theatre. I did start learning how to do what I would call quirky, rather weird costumes. So that took me into like how to deal with fantasy things rather than just straightforward period stuff. Because I did this huge, like 60-foot high, there's a 60-foot high blow-up doll in For the Love of Three Oranges, and she had to have a costume that matched the actual singer.
Wow.
So they had to blow this thing up, which filled the stage, and I had to make a costume that went on this 60-foot high figure. And I've always liked doing things that aren't in a textbook where you've got to figure it out. So I would say there were things at Glyndebourne that led me towards working on slightly weird, unconventional things where you have to go, well, how am I going to do this? But also at Glyndebourne, I met a woman called Annie Hadley, who was a very good cutter. And she was very precise about how she went into things. And she started doing things for freelance for films while she was working at Glyndebourne. I mean, she shouldn't have done it. It was a bit naughty, but she'd take on a group of costumes to supplement her income. And like, she'd never miss a date or anything. She'd always do the work, but she'd like, if the boss went out, she'd pull stuff from under her desk and we'd all start working on these film costumes, which we all knew had to be more detailed, finely detailed, because you knew they were going to be on a huge screen. So I kind of learnt in bits like that. You know, this has got, but then also you learn more how to make things and you take a greater pride in making it more beautiful or as beautiful as you can within the time restraints, which in movies is the thing. It's like, can you make it good for the money in the time?
A lot of tricks.
There's a lot of tricks to learning to do that, and then, going, well, it'd be nice to beautifully bind off the seam allowances, but no one's ever going to see that because she's never taking it off on camera. So we'll let that bit slide.
Yeah.
The bit that everyone's going to see is this, and that's got to be gorgeous.
And everything else, rough hems and loose pants and things.
Well, never, if you can help it, you never do that. But sometimes it's like, back on the Duchess, I had to make several things in a great rush on that, to the point where there was quite a bit of shouting from me, I think, at one point, going, why didn't you tell me this before? The designer would come in and say, I need another frock for Kira. And I go, when for? And he'd go, tomorrow.
Oh, jeez.
And I go, where's the fabric? In the shop.
Oh, no.
It's good to keep them scared a little bit.
It'd be like that. And I'd be like, right, okay, we can do it. Go get the fabric. And then split the work up between people. So you do the sleeves, you do the frill, you do the petticoat, you do the bodice, you do the quilting, you do the lace.
Oh, my goodness.
9 people on one frock.
Yeah, holy cow.
Which is not what you want to do, but I don't think you'd be able to point to that movie and go, that was the one that was made in 9 hours.
No, yeah, right. We wouldn't know.
But you would if you looked inside it.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I see. Well, that speaks to the nature, something that is important to you. And obviously, in the world of film production, it's all about your team and the crew and everybody that you're working with. And knowing that when you have a situation like that comes up, where like, okay, you can handle the lace, you can handle these seams and everything, and kind of get your team all working. I mean, talk about the importance of having a good team that you're working with, whether you're on it as like the cutter and you're kind of working with the costume designer and the rest of the team, or you're the costume designer and you're kind of like managing all of that.
It's essential to have skilled people around you that you get on with. I mean, none of us would be anywhere without a good team. And the difficult thing, or one of the difficult things, is if you suddenly get a job abroad, which I have done, obviously, even going to New Zealand, and you go and everybody is a complete stranger to you. And then also, because we're all freelance, you might, I have got a little core group of people that I'd like to use. I mean, if we do another Magic Faraway Tree, which we all hope, I'd love to bring those people back on board. But they may be on another project and we all get scattered. So, yeah, it's tricky. I mean, if you can build up relationships with people and you've got a shorthand and you get on, then that's an added bonus. But sometimes you find lovely surprises.
Yeah, true. New perspectives.
In a place you'd least expect it.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get to the Magic Faraway Tree. The core of the movie, the story is so sweet.
I agree, it is sweet. And I think it's the sort of film that everybody needs to see nowadays because it's so lovely and heartwarming.
I mean, I'm curious your perspective of that, because it's like based on a novel that's been around, a series, right, that's been around for quite some time. And coming into a project like that for you, and I mean, you could say the same thing with The Hobbit or any of these, but this one is like there's a lot of people who are fans of the work. Do you end up feeling extra responsibility when you come into that and you're like, well, I have to make sure Saucepan Man looks just right? Like, do you find that you feel an extra sense of pressure when you're jumping into a project like this?
In all honesty, I don't let it worry me. I particularly wanted to honour Pippa Harris's vision, or honour what she hoped that it would be, because I know it was a much-loved project of hers and she'd been trying to get it together for a number of years. So I would say it was important to me to make sure she was happy with it and try not to worry about...
And this is Pippa Harris, the producer that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, try not to worry about the wider world, because someone's always going to have an issue with something that you've done and go, I wouldn't do it like that. I mean, Saucepan was particularly tricky to pull off. As soon as I kind of thought about it, like at the beginning, I was like, well, how are we going to do this without him wrecking the sound recording forever and it being an absolute nuisance? And so that was my first practical thought about it. And sort of several weeks later, the director sent me a little WhatsApp video with some little measuring cups from his kitchen and jangled them. I went, how are we going to deal with this? I went, it's okay. This is how we're going to deal with it. I am quite practical about that. It was like, that's something to deal with first and then find the right people to make it, which thankfully I did.
I've got a couple of checklist characters that I want to have you comment on that I thought were really fun. One is Moonface, non so nosi. His headpiece is, what's his headpiece?
That's hair.
It was hair. It looked like a
that
knit.
Is hair.
It was wig.
It's a wig.
The beards on the know-alls.
They were shortish wigs and then VFX.
VFX, okay, outstanding.
Yeah, so the know-alls were like completely encased from the neck down in a like big blue screen cape against a blue screen, sitting on stairs that were all painted blue. So the extra length of beard was VFX because you cannot possibly find hair that long.
Yeah, that's a lot of hair. A lot of hair.
That's a lot of hair, and a lot of money would go on that hair if you could find it.
Yeah, for sure. I did adore that Judi Dench as the fridge. Obviously, is just the voice, but there is a universe in which Judi Dench in my head was actually in the fridge. That made me very happy to imagine. Andrew Garfield, you're making Andrew Garfield, a guy who has been in so much and has donned the Spider-Man uniform, and you make him look like an everyman. In one sequence, he's wearing the most banal, goofy dad shorts and boots. It was just delightful. So when you're going into Claire Foy and Andrew Garfield and thinking about how do we make them look like they're completely out of place, what goes into making these just absolutely delightful and very polished people look like they're one with the land?
It was a discussion between the director, the producers, and the actors, because you had to find. I said to them, they haven't got an iron, they haven't got a washing machine. They've got to look slightly put together. They've got to find things that are in the barn that they wear. And so all those little elements were talked about. Yeah, and then Andrew himself said, could I have some sort of vaguely hippie type garment? And that was the shorts. And then on the day of filming that, when he had the shorts and the wellies on, he said, can I have a hat? And I went, I think you should wear Claire's hat. And he went, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So yeah, right.
Because, she's the only one that has a hat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a collaborative chat as you go along and do fittings. And, we tried loads of things on all of the actors that aren't in the tree.
Right.
Just to kind of get the right vibe.
Well, and you're creating a balance between the real world, we'll just call it, right? Like creating a look for the family, creating a look for all the villagers who live nearby, the farmers who own the land and all that, the mother. So we've got that world, but then you're also jumping into all of the different beings that live up in the tree. And each of them ends up feeling so much bigger and more fantastical and much more unique in kind of the scope and everything. And I think that's, I don't know, I imagine quite a bit of fun for you to dance between the real world and the fanciful one, where you really get to kind of explore both sides and put it all into one space.
Well, it's the perfect project, really. You get the best of both worlds. You do a bit of a contemporary, which is carefully thought about. Even like Beth had a T-shirt on, which was, you didn't really see it a lot, but we designed a T-shirt that was kind of a bit anti-countryside and had barbed wire and birds trapped in fencing and things. It was part of her vibe. And so you could explore interesting things like that. And then Grandma had to look more expensive and quite hard.
which Jennifer Saunders carries off perfectly.
Yeah, although she's not at all like that, of course, in real life. That was nice to reconnect with her because years ago I used to do freelance work for the BBC and made a lot of French and Saunders costumes.
Oh, how fun.
So I hadn't seen her for like 30 years, I don't think.
Yeah.
There's something about, let's see, Billy Gadsden. I'm looking at her and I'm okay, narratively, she's our bridge into the Faraway Tree. Her costume was also felt intentionally like a bridge into the Faraway Tree. She already is wearing this sort of sweater with the kind of the blue fringe, and it looks already like she's wearing something vaguely fantastical. I couldn't help but wonder, is that because she's of an age where she naturally would wear that? Or was there some thinking that she's going to be the first one who's in the tree, who gets to explore this kind of universe for us? Is there that kind of thinking that goes into it? Am I completely overwatching this bit?
I don't think I consciously thought that, but when she first goes to the tree, she's wearing a red cardigan with a different color collar, band, cuffs. And I designed that. It was handmade for her. So it was like she's got to show up against the green. There were practical things. She's got to show up in the wood. She's got to look like a character that's a little bit like a toy. It's more of a toy thing in my head. She's got to be real, of course, and believable. And it's just quite funny because out of all the costumes that we did for the movie, I thought a lot of people would ask about the fantasy costumes. And in fact, I've had messages on Instagram about Andrew Garfield's clothes and Claire Foy's clothes more than I've had about Moonface and Silky, which is kind of nice because I thought that would never happen.
Yeah.
But, people are like wanting Claire's embroidered shirt that she wears at the end, which is in fact made from a embroidered tea cloth.
Wow.
So it's not available to buy. I'd like to say that now.
Right.
Link not in the show notes.
It's not in the shops.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting because there were quite a few little makes for all of the family that I think led it towards being a fantasy film, even though they were the real characters.
For sure.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
The real characters also get costume changes. They're changing clothes throughout the story. And everyone in the tree, unless I'm misremembering, but they're all essentially always wearing kind of their outfit, right? Like that's kind of like who they are, right?
Except for Nicola, right? Nicola gets when she turns into the fairy, she gets a change.
Right. She gets so she has a new look.
Yeah, she changes completely. Moonface has a smoking jacket when they're all sitting on the balcony at night. He did have a lovely cloak that didn't get seen, but maybe it will in another movie, I don't know. But mostly they stayed the same.
Yeah.
Because you kind of want the audience to go, oh, there they are again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a sense that it's a sense of space that kind of always just is living in kind of its own time.
Yeah, and that their time's very short, really.
Yeah.
Like the kids come back and they've only been gone a few hours.
Right, hardly any time at all. Yeah. How much design work did you have with each of these characters? Because they all have very unique looks, very specific looks. Were they based on sketches from the books? Were they based on, did the director bring a lot of thoughts forward, Ben Gregor, the director, as far as what he wanted to see with the looks of each of these people? Or was it really just kind of you free reign? What if we do this for Moonface? What if this is what Dame Snap looks like?
It's a variety of things. I mean, with Moonface, Ben came up with the idea of having the crescent hair.
The moon, yeah.
And he thought of that in the very early days. I don't recall him pushing me in a certain direction with Moonface, but I might be wrong. Because in fact, I did start working on it a lot further ahead than when I was officially employed. And I started sketching out different ideas. And then I just presented them to him. And I went, this is the coat that he has. I don't know whether everyone notices, but it's got a dark side and a light side of the moon. So everything on it was moon related, the printing was all raised craters, and the collar was some specially made felt that had craters on it. So It was just all part of a major discussion. Saucepan man, you kind of just have to cover in saucepans. It was me that went, it could be more interesting if they're copper, colour-wise.
They weren't actually copper. Right? I mean, he couldn't have walked around with.
No, he would have fallen over.
Yeah, right.
And been very annoying and noisy. But no, they were a combination of polyurethane and leather.
Okay.
And vac form plastic, 3D printing.
The other on my checklist was what sort of scaffolding is going on in Rebecca Ferguson's headpiece?
That's a hair question again.
That was a hair question. Okay. So that was hair. I didn't know if it was a hat. Like it felt like a hat, but that's supposed to be her hair.
That is her hair.
Wow.
Well, it's a kind of like sculptural wig. I don't think the top half isn't real hair. I don't know what it is, but you'd have to ask the hair and makeup people. But it came from an idea from Ben, because he saw a Korean hairstyle that he liked. And then my idea was to shove pencils and rulers in her hair.
It's so good. Well, and so, I've a couple of these I recognize are hair questions, but there is this, you are working on costuming in a universe in which hair and costumes and fabrics all have to work deeply intertwined with one another, right? Because, Rebecca's outfit is of a piece. They cannot stand alone. And the thinking of making her character sort of come to life in fabric. She's our evildoer, for sure. And I'd love to hear some thinking about what went into making her look and diabolical so that when that scream comes out, it all works together.
First of all, I'm sorry, I don't think I fully answered your previous question, but ask me again if I missed something. But she, in particular with Dame Snap, I did do quite a lot of different designs because they had different ideas about who to cast initially, and it was very, very late in the day that we actually got Rebecca, and what a godsend she was. And then once I knew that I then had to kind of like rethink it slightly. So it was rather last minute. I just wanted her to be like a weird school mistress, which is why she had like a pencil corset and a meter rule for a cane, and just be kind of quite stark. And the bit that I kind of fought for, because it's kind of a little bit based on a tailcoat, and then the tails at the back are done up like a bustle. And there's one shot in the movie where you see her run to the edge of the parapet of the castle, and you see the tails of the tailcoats, and it looks like a forked tongue. Now, I never knew Ben was going to do that shot, but I was really happy because I kind of fought to have the extra long tails, which you don't really see in any other shot.
Totally plays.
It plays, yeah.
Expanding from her, right? You're also dealing with her, I don't know what you call them, her minions, right? The people who work in the goblins,
the goblins.
Who work behind her, and they do feel of a piece together, like they're all sort of uniformed in piece. But if you're changing Dame Snap's costume, around, what is the impact on the entire sort of universe of the scenes that take place in the school? Did you find you're needing to constantly rejigger others' costumes that work with her, or were they pretty stable?
I had done quite a few ideas for them before we knew who Dame Snap was going to be. And so I had done a sort of lineup with a different Dame Snap, which was still black and red, but sort of fuller in skirt was fuller and the bodice was different, and it was a sort of heavy. Initially, I thought it was going to be a leather coat, but then we found out we were going to shoot in Malta in the summer, and it was like, well, that's not going to work, is it?
Right.
So, that was a rethink. But no, the goblins are kind of there. I think I might have done about 6 or 7 variations on them. So they were kind of agreed on and close. And then it all came together once we knew it was her, and just went, well, okay. That's that. They have this, and the colours stayed the same.
Yeah.
So no, didn't have to change them too much.
Well, the whole thing is just beautiful. I mean, for you, it just the whole film feels like a runway piece, right? What a showcase of such variety and originality. I imagine it feels very lucky to work on a show like this.
Really a delightful project to have, and not only is it a lovely piece to design and work on, the crew and the cast were uniformly lovely.
That's fantastic.
So very often you might get a good project and there's somebody that kind of disrupts it, or there's difficulties behind the scenes. And, one can only say it comes from the top. Neil Street, a very nice company to work for. Ben's really easy and funny, and he's very good with the children. And so, everything was quite lovely, really.
Well, that's great.
How often do you hear that?
Yeah, not very.
How much time did you have on the project?
I worked on it from March to October, but I have to say, Ben and I had been dialoguing a long time before that and throwing ideas back and forth.
Gotcha.
Because once I know I'm doing something, I do like to kind of tinker and get going. Because it serves me well in the end, because then by the time you get to start and you've got a team together, you can go, this is what we want.
True. Yeah, very true.
A special shout out to Simon Farnaby, who worked on the adaptation and was our duplicitous accented farmer, which I thought was a nice joke. That was a nice joke at the end. Yeah, that was on the Easter egg.
That was a great joke. Well, let's take this opportunity to shift our conversation and start talking about the Grand Budapest Hotel. This is
I forgot about that.
Yeah, a movie that you picked we're going to chat about. I mean, there's a lot I want to talk about with this movie, but in all fairness to you, I think let's start with the costuming and just like the world of Wes Anderson that he creates, because I think that this is, yet another fantastic film of amazing production design, amazing costume design, hair, makeup, wardrobe, like everything comes together in a brilliant piece paired with his direction, the actors, everything else. I mean, the costumes in this jump through several decades. I mean, what stands out for you as far as like what makes the costumes in this work as well as they do?
Oh, well, I have to say I've admired Milena Canonero's work for a while. And if she hadn't won an Oscar for this, I would have been stamping my foot, because I just think it's perfect. So it's even down. So I love the fact even that, like, you've got the lobby boy and Monsieur Gustave in purple. And I love the fact that they pretty much stay in those outfits when they go on the train and when they go to Castle Lutz. They only really change when he gets to the prison.
Yeah.
There's lots of little details to like Willem Dafoe has got that fabulous leather coat on, and he's got the pocket with
secret
the drink
pocket
and the gun. Yeah. And there's like little details like that. And there's much to like in it. Saoirse Ronan's got a sweet outfit. The colours of the cake shop and the van all go together.
And then the police officers, you've got Edward Norton and the other police officers in their cute little cop outfits.
Well, sure. And there's so many favourite actors in that, like Edward Norton, somebody I really admire, Willem Dafoe, also Jeff Goldblum, Adrian Brody. I like Saoirse Ronan, Tilda Swinton's in it. She's got some fabulous clothes, even though she's in it for, minutes. But I even like the sort of three relatives who are at the reading of the will. Those three women.
Right, the three sisters, yeah.
Yeah. And kind of to a lesser degree, because it's not my taste so much, like Jude Law's tweed suit in the early part.
Is it that because it's the period that you're not as much a fan of? Or?
Yeah, it is, because I've lived through looking at the period like that, and it's not my favourite.
Everything's so drab. But boy, does it ever fit into the universe of the drab era of the hotel.
Yeah. The production design is also spectacular.
Yeah.
And then they must have so cleverly worked together. I don't know if they'd all worked together before, but it just melds completely. And even, I love the little animated bits and
the elevators and the
little stop motion bits. It's a fun movie in that the jumping through time, right? Like we start with Tom Wilkinson as the older Jude Law talking about the book that he wrote. And I also love that Wes Anderson changes aspect ratios each time. And actually, I should say, step back even further. We start with a girl going to the cemetery to put some keys on this author's gravestone, and then read the book about the Grand Budapest Hotel. And then we jump back to Tom Wilkinson, and then we jump to Jude Law. And then we go. It's just fantastic structure.
Every time I talk about the movie, I forget how many time sort of periods we're in. It is 4, right? Technically.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. It is all put together with such precision. In addition to changing the aspect ratio, the way they change from Tom Wilkinson to Jude Law, F. Murray Abraham to Revolori, like the way the voices changes so seamlessly, so precisely. I look at Milena Canonero and just her long career working with Wes Anderson. There has to be such extraordinary shorthand in terms of how to build a universe that ties so deeply to production design, to costumes. Like, you bring up the purple, I couldn't help but think of the entire palette of the Grand Budapest Hotel. It all exists in this very narrow range of reds and pinks and purples, and we just live there, and it is exuberant and warm and just absolutely beautiful, and burns itself on my sense memory of this movie.
Yeah, it does.
One of the things that makes it unforgettable is the fact that it's those colors are seared into my eyes. Right? We spent so long with them.
The colors are wonderful, and they must have like a kind of shorthand of speaking together, and just to sort of say, this kind of cake and these kinds of colors, and work out, and then you start having those small conversations, and that leads to, well, the box has got to look like this for the cake, and then like the only splash of color really in the prison is the cake box coming through to be examined.
Yeah.
But I love the script, I love the dialogue, and I love Ray Fiennes' delivery of the dialogue. It's like my favorite bit, I think, is when they're on the train journey going to Castle Lux, and he's like, it says something about there being some small amount of civilization in this barbaric slaughterhouse. I can't remember all of it. But then I'm not an actor. So it's like, and then he delivers a bit more of it, and then he just goes, oh, fuck it. And you kind of go, has he forgotten his lines? Or is that part of the script? And it's just funny, and it's delivered in a funny way. And he does another speech when he's just escaped from the prison, and he's quite racist in it. And then he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, my dear boy.
Right.
And it's just, I just love his performance in it.
Oh, he's so good in the film. My favorite bit is when he goes to talk to the police, and it's just like, oh, I suppose you're here to arrest me or whatever. And then he just turns and runs.
He just runs, yeah.
It's like the funniest moment.
His physicality is really great in it. He's got a very particular walk, right at the beginning when he's directing people in and out of a room. It's like the luggage and all the rest of it. It's just this precise walk, and then running too.
Well, and what I think is so fascinating is that the film is saying so much more than you realize, right? Like there's a lot more going on with this story about like fascism and the rise of the Nazi Party and everything. And I don't know, on first glance, you don't necessarily think that that's what the story's really about. It's a Wes Anderson film. It just feels kind of just light and fun and everything. But then when you start looking at it, you're like, wow, it's a much darker story of everything kind of going on. It's not necessarily about all of that, but it's always going on in the background, right?
Yeah, it's like, here's old Europe, and this is what it looked like, and then this is new Europe, and how it changed, So it's like, the hotel looks like a cake at the beginning, and there's so many buildings in Europe, like Austria, Czech Republic is what I should call it, where there's these ornate buildings that you kind of, if you've traveled to Europe, that's just so familiar, they're part of the structure. And then you get stark communism coming in certain places, and a whole different style of architecture that's brutal.
Yeah.
And so it has a sense of that, of a changing Middle Europe. It doesn't name it.
Yeah, and the sort of rise of fascism in the film is treated for most of the film as like a tonal intrusion into the Bright story, right up until it's not. And I think the pair of sequences on the train, where the first one we have have it treated like the state police treated as an issue of rudeness and politeness and protecting one's own, to the very end where we get the sequence where we're no longer polite. Right. The now tonal intrusion is complete, and it's going to lead in the death of one of our lovely principal characters. This movie is playing sort of an emotional sleight of hand, and when the grief finally hits, it hits hard and very, very quickly. It feels like they're going to get away on the train just like normal, but in fact we slap back forward in time a little bit and realize this is where his life changed forever. It's really smart filmmaking.
It is. I love it. I could watch it again and again, and I think I must have watched it about 5 times already over the time scale it's been out. And I'd go back to watch it again, even after speaking to us now. And I only watched it last week just to refresh my mind. So I like the music too. There's not a thing I dislike, really.
Wes Anderson is one of those filmmakers who certainly has been accruing not just kind of a troupe, an acting troupe that he likes to kind of bring along with him, but certainly it also seems like a crew that he really has. And Alexandre Desplat seems to be kind of one of his like go-to composers that he brings on quite a bit. And the music is just phenomenal, as is so many elements of it. Yeah. It really feels kind of this Eastern Europe at this particular point in time. You kind of got a little bit of Russian dance feel kind of going in there and everything. It plays well with the whole scope of the film.
Where do you stand with Wes Anderson sort of more broadly? I mean, this is really a canonical film in his collection, but I mean, from Moonrise Kingdom to Asteroid City to Phoenician Scheme, when you look at the precision with which he approaches films, what is it that stands out for you as his touch?
I don't know. It's a visual attraction initially, although there's not a lot visually set-wise in Moonrise Kingdom, but I love it nonetheless. I love Bill Murray coming up and going calling them all beige lunatics. Just that's my favourite line, I think, from that. I haven't seen that in a while, but there's a kind of sweetness about that. It's always a little bit childlike.
There's an element, but it also is a little like there's a line of being childlike, but also like having an adult feel thread through it, like a darker tone. Whether it's kind of like the murder plot that we have, or like we said, kind of the rise of what it seems to be like the SS, the Nazi party that we have, and kind of the darker elements there. Also just the deaths that end up happening. We find out that the tragic end of Saoirse Ronan's character later in the story, and the way that we kind of learn these bits, it's just like, God, what I really like about it is it's a film, like, I don't know, it reminds me of like the sorts of films that they used to make, like back when I was a kid, where they didn't necessarily feel like they had to make everything safe for younger viewers. It felt like there's a little bit of darkness. And as younger viewers, I think sometimes that's a good element to kind of take in and go, wow, yeah.
Well, that's life, isn't it, really?
Yeah, right, right.
So they all encompass a lot of things. I like the Darjeeling Limited as well.
Yeah.
Tonally, it's so interesting to look at like Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs, right, with exactly that eye. Like, here's a guy who is making something that now is not just, colorful. It's literally in an animation style that by all means should appeal to kids. It should be the thing that is considered completely safe. And it is, both of those movies are chock-a-block of grief and loss and discomfort. Not to the point where they're adult films, but they are films that challenge people of all ages. I think it's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Even his Roald Dahl adaptation, the other ones that he did, like with Benedict Cumberbatch, like that whole batch is also, there's some real dark threads going in those stories.
No, that's true. Yeah, I haven't seen Asteroid City, and I don't know why, but I'll give it a try now.
It's one of my favorites. I know it wasn't for everybody, but I think this is Wes Anderson for you. Like some people love one and they're like, well, that one wasn't my favorite, but Asteroid City, Isle of Dogs, and the Grand Budapest Hotel are like my 3 favorites of his that I just adore to pieces. So.
Well, those are, you're talking about, that's more of his experimental era, right? The Asteroid City, it's got some stuff going on. I quite enjoyed it, but for me, it's Phoenician Scheme all the way down. His most recent is absolutely my favorite.
Really?
I know, right?
Fascinating. Interesting. That's what I need to see again. And did you see that one, Ann?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Add that to the list.
That was a short answer, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, as a fan of Wes Anderson, definitely check that and Asteroid City out. I think they're fascinating films. He's doing a lot.
I will do, yeah.
Yeah, really interesting stuff going on in those ones.
And Friends Dispatch, I quite like that too. That's intriguing.
A lot of really interesting stories going on through that one too.
Yeah.
That's what I need to revisit also. Like, I don't remember that one nearly as well as some of the other ones.
Me neither, actually.
It reminds me very much of Asteroid City. I think I could watch those back to back and get the same vibe, right? We're going to try some things here that are extraordinary, even in the scope of Wes Anderson's approach to filmmaking. And I love it.
Yeah.
I can't get my family to really get on board with my appreciation of Wes Anderson.
I know, I'm the same. Like, my partner, I said I'm going to talk about Grand Budapest Hotel, and my partner went, oh yeah. And I went, you weren't that keen, were you? And he was like, I didn't like the colour. And I went, what?
That's personal affront.
I love the colour.
Right.
I was like, I'm just not going to speak to you about it then.
Oh my goodness, no kidding. That's so funny.
I nearly picked Chinatown, which is a whole different kettle of fish. But like we both really like that film, and I've liked it for years, and so it's just as an excellent film. But then on a lighter note, I also like Amelie, and that's very colour orientated. It's a very restricted colour palette, which I love about it, apart from liking the story.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just plumped for Grand Budapest Hotel and then stuck with it. But then I was like, oh, maybe I should have spoke about Chinatown. Then I was like, well, that makes me sound a bit older. Maybe not everyone's heard of it. Grand Budapest is a bit closer to home years-wise,
Yeah, right. Well, it's a fantastic film. And, it's a great example of a movie where every department, and I'd actually love to hear a little bit about this from you, as far as like your working experiences, but every department really needs to kind of lock in together to capture this unique vision of a world being created.
It's essential.
And I think, that really speaks to what you were saying about teams, because it's not just your team, but it's, again, you as the costume designer, having a strong working relationship with the production designer and the hair and makeup team and the director and cinematographer. Like, all of you need to be working on the same page to kind of make sure that vision comes to life.
Yeah, I'm pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
So on Magic Faraway Tree, I had worked with Ben before, so we did have an understanding. And Neal Street People I'd worked with before also, but there was a producer on it that I'd worked with on a film years ago that she'd left, but it was kind of nice to link back with her. But creatively, I didn't know the production designer and I didn't know the hair and makeup person beforehand, but the hair and makeup lady, Karen Hartley Thomas, has become a close friend now, and we work together very well, and we need to, especially on something like that. So, it's good to find those relationships because, hopefully we'll work together again. I don't know if the whole team will or not, but you all have to agree colour palettes and,
Yeah.
Years ago when we were on Phantom Menace, I remember saying something that I shouldn't have said when I walked on a set and commented on some cushions and upset the set decorator. But I kind of I shouldn't have opened my mouth, but actually I was right because they just looked alien compared to the rest of it. And they did get changed. it's the first time when I kind of opened my mouth and thought, well, I shouldn't have, but in a sense I should have as well, because it just when something on the set just attracts the eye and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you want the whole thing to work. You don't want to suddenly go, what's that extra wearing in the background?
Yeah.
Action should be strong enough anyway to run it. But if it's a quiet scene and suddenly you see something in the background that's not right, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, I imagine that takes a lot of forethought as far as like planning everything. But also, I imagine it also requires everybody to be on their toes for quick changes. If the director is suddenly like, oh, you know what, that shirt is popping too much, can we quickly change that background actor's?
Yeah, you've got to be ready for things like that. But also, hopefully with principals, you've gone through the motions of, getting things approved. Certainly, I pushed for that on Magic Faraway Tree when people weren't really thinking about it. I go, who's going to approve this? You've all got to go, yeah, that's it. Like, even as far as designs before we start making things. But then just if you look at crowd in general, there's a kind of, if you're doing modern crowd, contemporary crowd, you've got to kind of give a remit to the people that might be bringing their own clothes, but you've got to have like a stock of spare stuff, because if you give them a description of what the scene is meant to be and they misinterpret it, then you've got to kind of have a backup.
Yeah.
And you've got to have a crowd team that you trust, because everybody goes off and get dressed, and then they all come out for a lineup and somebody's wearing a bright fuchsia pink sweater and you go, well, that's got to go.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got to kind of like, or someone's wearing a hideous 1970s shell suit because you said tracksuits, but you meant now, tracksuits now, not tracksuits from the 1970s or 80s. So, yeah, I had a horrible time I wasn't designing it, I was a supervisor on it, and I had to ring up a load of people and say, it's a gentleman's club, come and dressed as you would for lunch in a posh London gentleman's club. And quite a few people weren't English. And they just picked up on, like, there are a lot of people that had just become supporting artists and they were from Europe, say. And so they just picked up on the word club.
Oh.
Not knowing what a gentleman's club.
So they dressed to go clubbing.
Like so just to go clubbing.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, no,
Not quite.
It's not a lot of spare stuff got used that day.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. That was frightening.
Well, it's also challenging because you're like, I hope I have enough to dress all of these people and to make this change. Yeah.
Because you can't just run out to the shops and buy extra stuff, not when they're standing there at 7 a.m. in the morning about to go on the set.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that taught me to be carefully worded.
Yeah, right.
The film does revolve around Boy with Apple. What would it take for you to hang Boy with Apple in your home, I wonder? It is currently hanging in the museum, design museum in London, as a part of Wes Anderson, the Archives exhibition. It does still belong to Wes Anderson. It's a real piece commissioned by British artist Michael Taylor in 2012. Do we believe that it is truly priceless?
No.
Part of the fantastic joke is that the piece is quite strange. It was modeled, credit to a London-based dancer, Ed Monroe. So it was all done as a nice real setting, attributed to fictional Renaissance artist Johannes van Huytel the Younger. So good.
I know, it's a perfect kind of like mock-up of, that type of portrait. But I love the joke that they takes that painting off and puts, like, I think it's either a Klimt or an Egon Schiele provocative painting up. And then Adrian Brody comes and sees it and goes, what is this shit? Or something like that.
Rips it off the wall and smashes it.
Rips it off the wall, breaks it.
How long did it have to sit with people just not acknowledging that was the picture that was hanging above the mantle, that it was Adrian Brody who we got to wait for to get the notice? brilliant.
It was a
find
few
it.
seconds, wasn't
Because
it?
the
It was
sisters had
there,
been sitting
yeah.
in the room under it for some time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but I don't think they dare say anything.
No, exactly. It plays so well. Well, I mean, Grand Budapest Hotel is such a fantastic movie, and thank you for coming on the show to chat about it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming on the show to chat about the Magic Faraway Tree and all your wonderful work on it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The film is will be in theaters right around the corner from the time this episode is out. So check it out. Take your kids. Enjoy with the whole family. Everybody's going to have a fun time at the magic that they're going to see on screen.
I sure hope they do, but it's certainly doing very well here. People love it.
That's
Awesome.
fantastic. Do you have any place online that people can follow you and check, kind of track what you're up to and your new projects?
People do seem to find me. I am on Instagram. I have a website, annmaskrey.net.
Gotcha. Instagram and Threads, I think you're at Ann Maskrey Costume, right?
I don't know about Threads.
Instagram. It basically
It's
is
like
another version of
auto-posting your
So
Instagram.
Oh, okay.
they kind of just say, "Oh, you're also on that too," if you're on Instagram. So,
Okay.
but I won't put it in the show notes if you're not using it. We'll just leave Instagram up. So,
No, I don't use it.
fantastic. Well, Anne, thank you once again.
Very nice. It was very nice to speak to you. Very enjoyable. Thank you for having me.
If this conversation sent you deeper into costume design or into Wes Anderson's world, here are 3 episodes worth your time. The Film Board covered the Phoenician scheme, Anderson's newest, so that is the most direct next click. For more costume design conversation, go back to our Movies We Like episode with Antoinette Messam on Amélie, a different director but the same instinct for a world that only exists inside the film. And for the elegance and decline thread that runs through the Grand Budapest Hotel, the next Reels episode on Barry Lyndon is exactly where to go next. Thanks again to Ann Maskrey for joining us today. For everyone out there, we hope you enjoyed the show and certainly hope you like the movie like we do here on Movies We Like. Movies We Like is part of the TruStory FM network and part of the Next Reel family of film shows. Our theme is Chong Clap by Out of Flux. Find us at TruStory.fm and follow at The Next Reel on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can also watch full episodes on the Next Reel's YouTube channel. If you'd like to learn about becoming a member of the Next Reel family of film shows, visit trustory.fm/join. That's trustory.fm/join. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love your rating and review wherever you listen. See you next time.